Today's episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast is brought to you by AOS Outdoor Kitchens. They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists. Welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. This episode, we are speaking to Paul from Hampshire _BBQ, who has been cooking for years, is an ambassador for Broil King, is involved with Sizzlefest, but he'll go through all of that with us shortly. So without much further ado, here's Paul. Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for coming on to the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. So introduce yourself for anyone who might not know who you are.
Hi, gents. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. My name is Paul, mostly known through social media as Hampshire BBQ. That's typically on Instagram, some Facebook presence, but it's predominantly Instagram.
Lovely. And for anyone who hasn't had a look, pause the podcast, have a look, and the photography of what you're putting together on there is absolutely wonderful. I mean, just scrolling and all the different color profiles as well. It's gorgeous. How did you originally get into barbecue?
Oh, it goes back. So probably 15 years, I would say. I cast my mind back sort of 15 years. I grew up as an only child. My mum worked full time. My dad was a fireman, and he was in London Fire Brigade. And I was often at home, on my own for sort of days, what felt like days and weeks on end. So I was like that kid that, would just knock up a dinner on his own, sort of latchkey kid. I'd have a microwave meal or whatever it may be. And I was obsessed with fire as a kid. I was also that boy that would have a bag of, caps or matches and things like that. I was always trying to set something alight. And I was always a foodie because I thought I need to feed myself. And my mum, bless her, she could cook, but she, it was always rushed and stuff. But I always really enjoyed food and wanted to get in food. And as I got older, I was just kind of obsessed. This sort of, this obsession with fire just sort of grew within me. And I guess I probably just wanted to combine the two. And years of really bad barbecue, like attending really bad barbecue as well. We all came through that learning process. But I mean, I've been to some horrific barbecues in my time, and I think that really sort of set something inside of me to say, we've got to be able to do this better. You can't be able to cook really great food even in a domestic kitchen, but certainly in a commercial kitchen, and then not be able to replicate that, in a barbecue, whatever barbecue it is. We must, as the British race, we must be able to do better than the crap that we're churning out. Sort of back, I don't know, in the 90s and stuff when I first sort of started to get into barbecue.
What does bad barbecue look like then from the 90s? Everyone talks about it, but for like our international kind of listeners. The classic, and he'll never listen to this, bless him, but an older friend of mine, I remember he invited us all around for a barbecue, and there must have been 30, 40 people there. And he's got this, I think it was a gas barbecue. There's nothing wrong with that. I do have a gas barbecue. We had a gas barbecue, and he came out with a load of frozen burgers and frozen sausages in a bag and literally just emptied these frozen meat onto, and it was like clank, 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 clank. It was like he'd thrown a sort of dinner service on top of this barbecue. Oh God. And everyone just sort of gasping in real shock that this was the food that was going to be sort of served up to us. So I think that sticks out in my mind as, I think I was maybe 18, 19 at the time. That sticks out in my mind as, God, this is horrendous. And then, the classic, right? The cheap sausages that are just, thrown directly over fire, that are just black, burnt to a crisp on the outside, and then the inside is like this mushy pulp, which doesn't even resemble real meat. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we experienced it all really. So that's bad barbecue to me. It's sort of burnt into my memory.
Well, I've never understood, and I've been to loads of bad barbecues where you're right, you have that black on the outside, pink in the inside, but the fear of it being undercooked, then they take, they'll take it off and put it in the oven.
Yeah.
So not only it's burnt already on the outside, but then you're going to go cook it for longer just because
it's burnt, but we want to really dry this out, right? So
yes,
it's just that corrugated cardboard feel. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think there was this certainly in this country, right? Barbecue's not been around for as long as it has in other parts of the world. Certainly not to a decent level. But I think certainly, growing up listening to sort of my parents and their friends and stuff, it's like, oh, you need to be careful. It was that kind of that fear of getting dodgy guts, to be brutally honest. So everything was cremated. So yeah, I think that's probably where it was born from. And if you fast forward to today, we didn't have the sort of technology like instant read thermometers and things like that. It was any sort of meal. People were looking at the instructions on the packet, throwing it in the oven for however many minutes it said to cook it for. So yeah, I think it was born from there. But yeah, I've witnessed some pretty shocking barbecue, I must admit. And I'm not completely innocent from that. I think on many occasions we'll probably come up to we've all got it wrong. It's part of the process.
And so yeah, we definitely will come up onto that. We won't go straight into it now, but
no, save it.
So yeah, so kind of your start, that journey, the start of your journey then. So you've like you said, you've already had that love of cooking and making fires from a young age. So when it came to your first barbecue, what did you go for first? What was your first piece of equipment?
Well, I was trying to think back actually before today. So I actually remember the first barbecue that I ever bought was this Outback. Do you remember Outback?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a charcoal barbecue, and it actually looked. Thinking back at the time, I thought, yeah, this is the real deal. I have made it in life. I've got this Outback barbecue, and it was cast iron grill grates again, which is good. So I don't really like, but it was just like a flat top, and it had two sort of shelves, but it had no lid, so you were just grilling. That was all you could do. So even back then, I didn't really know about, indirect and direct and stuff. So I was just essentially replicating all the crap that I'd been moaning about for years anyway. So that was my first ever barbecue, was this Outback thing. But I had no cover, and I used to just leave it outside in my first flat that I moved into after college. And it just rusted to pieces within one winter. You're just looking at it, think that's got to go. So I then went the route that most people go, and I bought myself a Weber kettle, and this was an old Weber kettle when they were, solid, really solid. And I had that for 10 plus years, and okay, it was holding on in the end there, but I mean, it was solid. It was made in America. It was a good bit of kit, and I cooked a lot of food on there, good and bad. And that I probably got that. I don't know. That must have been 2010. I bought that 2009, 2010. I bought that, and it's not long gone. I probably sold it 2-3 years ago. I think I just gave it away. Actually, it wasn't. It didn't hold any value at that point.
So you've been doing barbecue for quite some time then.
Yeah. I mean, I'm nearly mid-40s, so I've been around the block a bit. I've been barbecuing for a while.
But you don't look a day over 25.
Yeah,
eh?
right.
I was going to say, what the hell have Owen and I been doing if you're mid-40s? We look like this.
No, I've got filters and things and whatever. But no, so yeah, I've been barbecuing a while, and as I say, that Weber kettle that started to really change things for me. Having a lid for one, okay, I'm starting to work some stuff out now, and I can control, air vents and temperature and stuff. And then I reckon, crikey, must have been, 5-6 years after that, I got a Weber Smoky Mountain, the big one, which I kind of liked. In my head, it was before I bought this thing, I thought this is it. You know, this is the pathway to everything that will be amazing barbecue. And it didn't quite work out that way. I did like it, but I think what it did is it sort of whet my appetite for the next level. You know, it got me hooked on what started out as barbecue. For me, was very much a social event. You know, I do like to socialize a lot. I've got a big family now, and friends and stuff. And for me, barbecue is a social thing. It's about getting friends and family around, you know, when we can in this country, and just having a good time, you know, with, you know, drinks and music and great food and stuff. And so, yeah, going back, I think the Smoky Mountain was, okay, I can take this up a notch, and I can start to deliver some really good barbecue. And on occasion it was, you know, I'm not going to lie, there was some utter garbage in there as well. I think I struggled with that unit was, if anyone's ever had one, which I'm sure lots of people have, what I struggled with, the door leaked like...
Owen's literally talked about this on the show with his...
The door just leaks like, I don't know, like a knackered washing machine. And what used to really annoy me was the lid. Why not make the lid go over the base instead of go within it? Because whenever it rains, it just catches all of the crap and whatever. It just sat in there, and that used to just rust and get all sort of grimy. And yeah, as you can see, I actually sold it. I sold it, I don't know, a few years back to the Wolf Shack. I don't know, let it go for next to nothing, but he loved it. I think he's modded it and put some fancy door on and replaced the lid and whatever. But that was my kind of entry into proper barbecue, you know, smoking. But yeah, I think sort of going off on a tangent slightly, but coming back to the point for me initially it was always about bringing people together and having a good time, and, you know, being sociable, and yeah, that kind of stuff. And I think after that, it became a little bit more serious for me. Not in like a serious stressy way, but in a bit of a geeky way. You know, I found myself doing more research and buying books, and, you know, similar to my career really in real life. You know, I didn't come out of school and college with anything particularly impressive at all. But I always learn in a more practical way. So if I didn't know how to do something, I'd go and find out. I'd teach myself how to do it, you know. And it's the same with barbecue. You know, I never went to any sort of culinary school. I never had any experience working in a restaurant or a pub or anything like that. But I thought, hey, I'm sure I can do this. It can't be that difficult, right? It really can't. It's just food and just temperature and controlling whatever heat source it is. And so it was just literally just trial and error, and things gradually started to get a lot better. And then when I bought a Traeger, before Traegers were that cool, and everyone took the piss out of me. Everyone took the piss out of me for buying a Traeger, and the people that took the piss out of me are now people with Traegers. By the way,
of course, that seems to happen a lot. I think people always see Traegers as almost like easy bake ovens, and then when they when they get the chance to actually get their hands on them and play with them and toy with them, they realize actually what a special bit of kit they are.
Well, this is it, and it's, you know, I say Traeger, it's, you know, it's a pellet grill at the end of the day. But I've got a big family now. I've got a lot of children, and should have bought a telly instead of a Traeger. I just thought, the purist in me wanted to spend like crazy money on an offset, but I knew there was no way on earth I was going to sit there, you know, every weekend through the night feeding a firebox. It's not going to happen, especially if I've got friends around and we're all having a drink and things, you know, before we know it, who knows what's going on. So I did research, and I nearly went for ceramic, and I toyed and etc. And in the end, this kind of pellet grill that was, you know, growing in popularity, just seemed to sort of strike a chord with me. I was like, I can do this, and doesn't seem like a lot of work. So yeah, I bought this Traeger, and that changed the game for me, to be honest. The pellet grill. I instantly sort of fell in love with being able to use a pellet grill. And yeah, as I say, this was before pellet grills were particularly popular, or they certainly weren't very cool. And I had the easy bake oven comments. I had the, you know, all those memes about guys, you know, with pellet grills wearing, you know, knickers and things like that. And but yeah, it was great. And I really started to knock out some good food on there. And I enjoyed it up until I sold it. I mean, I didn't have it for long, turns out. You know, I kind of bought it, and I think I only had it for about 6-7 months. Oh. But I sold it because basically I was approached by Broad King to go and be an ambassador for Broad King, and obviously that changed things, considering they've got their own pellet grill. So yeah, I thought, you know, there's no point in this just sitting there sort of gathering dust. It was a really good piece of kit. Sold it to a really good friend of mine who uses it like 3 or 4 times a day. Absolutely loves it.
And you obviously started to get more serious into barbecue. You know, you had, like you said, you went through the Smoky Mountain into the Traeger, your love of barbecue, and then you got approached to be a brand ambassador for quite a large, you know, barbecue company. How does that come about? And
yeah, it's quite
what was your
weird,
thought
right?
process?
Yeah, I think it started like a lot of us, right? It started in lockdown, or just before lockdown. I went for a pretty tough time about a year before lockdown, where I was diagnosed with tinnitus. And for anyone that doesn't know what tinnitus is, imagine that sound when you get, you know, an air block in your radiator, and you've got that high-pitched whistling sound. So I have that in my left ear 24 hours a day, every single day of my life. And that was tough. That was really tough. And that's, you know, I've listened to a lot of your other podcasts with the guys from Q Together, and you know, the focus on mental health, and that resonates with me a great deal. Because I think I started to get serious about barbecue, and then I started to get really serious about barbecue because when I was going through that sort of difficult time in my life, it gave me an outlet, it gave me something to focus on that wasn't work, that wasn't, you know, God, love and family and stuff. It was just something that I could just channel my energy into. And so, yeah, I used that as an outlet, as something to sort of focus on. And then lockdown came along, coming back to your original question. And I was still working from home, you know. As much as I wanted a bit of this furlough action, it didn't come my way.
I hear you.
Yeah. So I, you know, and at the time, we've moved since, but in the time, we were just kind of sat there, and the kids were there, and the wife was there. It was like, right, what should we do? This is quite boring. So we started to do the garden up and things like that, which sort of, you know, just making a sort of new patio area. And then I thought, right, okay, so we've got the barbecues in there, we're gonna put them in there. And then, you know, each day, my wife's actually a really good cook. You know, she wouldn't ever say it about herself. She's not that like that, but she's a really good cook, but she'd never cook outside. That's kind of, you know, she's her domain's here. But she sort of said, you know, she was doing things, you know, she was sort of pushing herself to sort of cook new dishes. And so I started to do the same, and to really sort of try and see how far can I take this barbecue thing. I don't know. I can't remember the exact point that I said I'm just going to do this, but I said I'm just going to just chuck some stuff on Instagram. You know, I've never been a massive social media fan, in all honesty. You know, I've been on it for years, but I didn't relentlessly sort of look at it and stuff. But so I started this page, and it was just on a whim. It was like, no idea what to call it. Hampshire BBQ, that'll do. So I just started to just put posts on there. I think that was at the April, so like a couple of weeks after lockdown had sort of kicked in, which was I think March. yeah, and then like, you know, like so many people have said, I just found all these people. It's like, oh, this is a bit mental. You know, I'm not the only one just sat here cooking stuff, of course, just putting pictures on Instagram. You know, and I met so many people. You know, I met Corky, I met Russ, who are, you know, me and Russell Davis barbecue. We speak like 3 times a week still, and always have done for years. Ever since we sort of met there. You know, and Dom, Cornish Carnivore, and Fowl, and all these people. You know, some have given it up and walked away from it. It was their thing during lockdown, but there seemed to have been a nucleus of people that I sort of engaged with and met, and I've just sort of carried on. So yeah, I was kind of just chucking stuff on Instagram, and then I found myself becoming a bit more obsessed with how it looked and how I was plating it. Yeah, and then I got approached indirectly by a sort of marketing company that worked for Broil King in the UK, and they said, "Listen, we're putting together like some ambassadors, you know, some ambassadors / demo chefs. We don't really know what it's going to be yet in the UK, because they've got the same in North America, in Canada, and in the US. Would you be interested?" And I think they had approached Russ at the same time as well. And because we were talking, we was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Why would we not do this? And so, yeah, it just kind of went from there. It was like, I didn't grasp the opportunity sort of in at the time. I was just like, yeah, why not? Whatever. But actually, after a couple of months, I was like, this is really cool. And they're really lovely people to work with, and that's probably one of the best things about it. Really, I think what I've tried to do, something that, you know, I've tried to stick to as much as possible, and I think I've pretty much nailed it to the best of my ability, to only sort of endorse things that I genuinely use myself and genuinely believe in. Right.
It makes such a difference. It's all about the legitimacy of what you're putting out and what you're saying. The second that you stop doing that, all of that falls away. We
did. And, you know, there was one thing. I did a small piece of work for a couple of weeks, you know, a couple of years ago now, which in hindsight was a bit, okay. I didn't massively push it, but, you know, it is what it is, right? It was one of the things. But certainly with Broil King and a lot of the brands that I use now and work with today, it is 100%, you know, I'm recommending it, or I'm using this product because I genuinely believe in it. Because ultimately, if you buy it, or my friends buy it, or my family buy it, and they come back and say, "Paul, this is a piece of crap. What you know? What were you thinking?" Then I just look, you know, like a mug. So yeah, and that's one thing that I'm dead set with, especially, you know, with expensive equipment, things like, you know, I'm fully aware of how much some of this kit costs, and, you know, in fairness, I've got a lot of Broil King kit in my garden now. So yeah, it's I'm very very, very grateful for how they've supported me, and you know, the sort of free license they give me, really, to just crack on. They don't really, you know, they give me a little hit list at the beginning of the year and say, these are some of the things that we'd like you to cover, but no pressure, do what you can.
And what does that look like then, if you've got this little Broil King collection? Talk us through what this collection looks like.
What does it look like? Oh, so we only moved into this house sort of right at the end of October, early November, after a very long drawn out purchasing process. But so the garden at the moment it needs real attention. So it looks a mess, is what I'm trying to say. You know, it does look a mess. I've not really met my neighbours yet, and I'm sure they're looking over the fence thinking, what the fuck is this guy up
to? 24 barbecues and brown grass.
It's pretty much, yeah, you've nailed it there. Yeah, you might want to cut your grass, pal, before you start cooking. So no, I've got three charcoal units. So I've got the Broil King Smoke series, which is just, you know, the sort of barrel on the side, kind of their normal sort of shape, which is a really good charcoal unit. I've got the offset version of that, which has got the firebox on the side. Then I've got the Keg 5000, because I know you're a keg guy as well. Orange. So yeah, I've got that. I've got the what else have I got? I've just got the new Regal 500 Pellet Pro, so that they just upgraded it to the Pro version for me, because my old one was a couple of years old. And I've got a Baron 590, a gas grill, and I hate the fact that there's a certain sort of snobbery in the sort of in the community sometimes with regards to gas, because actually it's really useful. It is really useful. And okay, you're not going to cook a brisket on it and all the cool things, of course not. But when you roll out of bed on a Sunday morning and you want, egg, bacon, beans, whatever it is, there's nothing easier than banging on the gas, the gas barbecue, putting the griddle plate on. That thing is raging hot inside of 5 minutes, and your house doesn't stink. I mean, it's a winner. I just plus the rotisserie on it as well, I think is immense. So I will always be a believer, if you can afford it, having a half decent gas barbecue in your arsenal. I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah, funny enough. So when me and Dan have known each other for, I don't know, 10 years or something, and Dan had a gas. I can't remember. It was a Weber.
It was the Q
series. Q series. That was it.
Q2000, I think it was.
And I had a Weber kettle at the time, which was my first barbecue. Again, I've had mine 10 plus years, and it's still going strong. But I used to absolutely rip it out of Dan. Sort of say that he wasn't barbecue, and he was outdoor cooking. But
I kept saying to you had a fire pit rather than a barbecue.
Yeah, so it was all the back and forth. But for fast forward 10 years, I agree with you in the sense I don't have a big gas unit. I purchased a secondhand Kadak Carry Chef, the one that you can kind of take away camping, all fold down.
Okay, I think I know.
I use that so much now because I did a load of work in my old house, got a new kitchen, had a really high-tech hob, and I could boil water in felt like it was seconds. I've moved to this house and it's something from the 50s, and it takes me 4 days to boil some water and all that kind of stuff. So I have to use, I'm using gas all the time, my gas barbecue, so I can just cook some pasta. So I'm constantly cooking or pancakes or whatever it is. I agree that the convenience of gas shouldn't be outweighed by charcoal.
Listen. We know that there's other options there that will give you much more flavour in your barbecue. We know this, right? But I also don't think that we should look down on gas in any way. How many people have got a rock box today? I know lots. I've got a rock box. I think it's amazing. I'm gonna have a guess. Yeah, and I'm gonna have a guess that 99% of people that use a rock box use the gas plug-in rather than the fiddling about with the little wood splits that are not much bigger than your index finger, because that's a pain in the arse. Sitting there trying to bring that up to temp, tucking little wood bits, and no way. So what's the difference? Okay, yeah, it's a dedicated pizza oven and it cooks pizza phenomenally and it's incredible, and all the great things about Rockbox. Still runs off gas.
Yeah, I used to love it because this was when I would say I wasn't hardcore into barbecue because I know what I'm like now, but I was still back then, particularly for the UK, barbecuing more than most people. I reckon, particularly in from spring to into summer, probably 3 times a week I would be on that thing. But I'd finish work 5:30, drive home. Strange concept to people now in 2023, but you used to have to occasionally drive home from work. By the time I got back, it'd be 6:15, 6:30, but I could still barbecue and actually have the meal in the course of half an hour, which you learn there's things that you can do with chimney starters and everything. But back then in when was that? 2011, 2012? I didn't know that.
No, you didn't. You were still sort of fanning around trying to sort of start the coals and stuff, and then I'll be ready to cook on in an hour. And it's okay, well then how long is it going to take you to cook the food? Well, that's another hour or so. Forget it, it'd be dark. So
Whoever came up with the idea of a chimney starter is a genius.
Oh God,
absolute pure genius. And the woodies, the little wire, woodies,
natural firelighter things.
Genius. Yeah. These ideas I keep missing in life. That's where the money is. But I mean, going back to it. So I can cook on the full range really of Broad King products. I would say I use the keg and the pellet smoker the most. The keg because it's just so easy. One, you can start a fire in there really quickly, and it's crazy efficient on charcoal. I don't know if that's your experience, but for me, it's ridiculous, ridiculously efficient on charcoal. You need hardly anything in there. And then if I'm feeling like kind of a bit lazy, or I've got other stuff to do, or I'm going to kick back, then the pellet will just rock on. I do have some other kit as well that isn't Broad King. So I've got the Rock Box, which I absolutely love. I bought myself a little PK Go as well, which is decent. I really like it. It's just not that much of a go. It's really heavy. It's like PK and then get a sack barrow, and then you might be able to go. But because we live quite near the coast, so in the summer, like us and friends and stuff, we'll quite often have barbecues on the beach. So we'll go down to sort of Hillhead or wherever, and sort of we'll take the coolers, and my friend's got a boat, so sometimes we'll go out in there, and it's it's quite pleasant. But the PK Go's not. I mean, you can take it, and I have taken it many times. You've got to be prepared for a little workout. But all that said, it is really good little unit. I've got a pit barrel as well, so I do some work with pit barrel. And I have got a monster brie from the Brie Men.
Oh,
which I was fortunate enough to win. That would have been Christmas 21, I think.
What is it with you guys winning barbecues? I enter everything I see, and I don't get a sniff.
I don't know. I used to do. I mean, back in the sort of lockdown period, wasn't it? There was like competitions all the time.
Yeah,
it was mental. And
I still didn't manage to win a sodding thing.
So I mean, I won a couple of things, not huge, and then I sort of stopped entering a little bit because I think I'd won 2 or 3 on the bounce. I was like, this is getting a little bit embarrassing. And then Elkie, who lives not far from me, sort of 20 minutes up the road. I can't remember why, but it hit sort of some following milestone, and he said, right, we've got the brie. I'm going to put the brie up as a competition. And I actually thought, I'd like a bit of this. So so I entered, and I kind of forgot about it, completely forgot about it. And then Dom, Cornish Carnivores, texted me. And I won't repeat what he said, but it was, as you can imagine,
colourful. I can imagine
something along the lines of "you jammy bleep 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 bleep." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You've won the brie from Elkie." I was like, "No," he said, "You have." So I've gone onto Instagram and then checked the stories, and he was on there, and he's done the little spreadsheet thing, and lo and behold, what result? And that is fun. That is fun to cook with. I in my own sort of admission, because last year was a bit of a disaster with a house move. I haven't used it as much as I'd like to, but this year is definitely when that's going to change. So I've already got a hell of a lot of wood stockpiled in the garage, and I think I'm actually going to fire it up this week and do a first cook of the year on the brie, because it is good fun, and it's such a talking point when you've got people around.
Funny enough, we haven't spoken about brie at all really on the podcast, considering we've nearly done 50 episodes. Actually, it's something that we've not really done at all. Just talk us through it, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about brie and what you know about it.
I mean, I was kind of obviously learning. For me, it was all a learning curve. Obviously the South African brie, and then I started to do some. What was really nice is once I won it, company called Briarwood UK, a guy there called Simon got in touch with me and said, look, obviously, you know, this is a sales pitch, but we do import Briarwood from South Africa. So he was quite helpful in sort of my initial getting to grips with this humongous piece of kit. And it was quite funny actually, because I said to my wife, and at the time, you know, I've got a lot of this broil king equipment there. And I think I still had a kettle knocking around in the garden as well. And I said to my wife, Claire, I said, oh, I'd want a barbecue. She was like, another fucking barbecue? Are you kidding me? I said, and she'd just spent months doing the garden. She'd put all this flower bed in. Like, she'd literally dropped hundreds of pounds on these flowers. I said, yeah, there is a slight problem. It's quite large. She said, well, what do you mean by large? I said, you know, your flower bed you've just sort of grafted on for months. It's probably going to cover most of that. Sort of block it from the sun. Yeah. So anyway, so it's got delivered. She was at work. I sort of put it up, and it's only when you put the chimney flue on, because obviously you need that draft. So it's quite a big cooking area, but you need that drawer to take the chimney and the smoke away, because you've basically got like a burn pot, or you know, where you make the embers, so like an ember maker. So you're feeding your wood in there, and you'll just sort of knock that with you know, like a poking stick, and then your embers will come out, and then you can scrape that to wherever you happen to be cooking on. So you've got this chimney flue, and yeah, I remember when she came home, she's like, "Oh my god, look at the size of that monstrosity!" And I measured it, and from floor, yeah, top to bottom, it's 3.2 meters, I think.
Jesus Christ!
It is, yeah, it's quite a thing, but it's great fun. So basically, yeah, it is very, you know, fire and cooking over fire in its rawest form to a degree, other than digging a hole in the ground. So yeah, you can use the ember maker, or you can just, you know, start a fire in either side. And I started experimenting with different South African woods, which was the first time I'd ever used this wood. And if you've never picked up a piece of briarwood, I know this sounds really geeky, but it was, how heavy is this? It's so dense. I've never felt anything like it. It's like almost like sort of concrete. It's so heavy compared to, you know, woods that we're used to in this country. So yeah, I started experimenting with, I think it was Seckelbos and camel doring. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, but it's those sort of different South African woods. And they just burn really hot for a hell of a long time, just due to their sort of, you know, how dense they are. And then yeah, you've literally got different height adjustments. I've just bought a kebab sort of attachment for that, and a rotisserie. So I've got a nice picanha I'm going to put on there fairly soon over the wood there. So it's really cool. It's a really fun way to cook. The downsides are, I think, in winter, my goodness, you can go through some wood. Yeah, that would be my only thing. I think I used it. The winter, not this winter, but last winter. And we had a load of friends over. We were cooking a lot, but Jesus, you know, I must have done about 60, 70 quid in wood, just for one cook. So, but you know, it's part of the fun. And
just out of interest, well, you mentioned about the South African wood, you know, the specific briarwood. Would you recommend that, you know, you've got a briar, you should be using briarwood, or actually do you think, you know, cooking on your oak or your beech or whatever is absolutely fine?
I'm a sort of I guess an ambassador, if you want to call it that, for green olive firewood, and they've just sent me a load of olive wood to try on there, and I think it's like charcoal for me. It's, you know, I don't think we should look at it any differently. Different wood will give you different flavor, you know, different burning capabilities, different length of burn, all of that kind of stuff. So I did want to try the briarwood initially because, you know, right, it's what you should be doing. And I still will use it. But I'm also gonna really kind of get to grips with that a lot this year, and just use different woods and different techniques to try and cook as much as I can on there. But it's very much a weekend thing for me. It's you've got to really be sort of stood there and invest the time, and you can't it's one of those things you can't take your eye off it, because it's a live fire. You need to be controlling that, or at least have half an eye on it. And so it's more of an experience type thing, which is great. It comes back to one of the reasons that I originally got into barbecue is that social gathering, that experience thing. And as I say, when I've been cooking on it and when we've had people around and stuff, it's normally, it sounds really bad, but it's always the same thing. The women will come around and go, "What is that, Claire? What is your husband doing? That's ridiculous." And all the guys will go, "Oh, that's well cool." And they'll grab a beer, and we'll all start sort of
prodding fire,
messing around. Yeah, prodding fire, being men. But it's pathetic, but it's sadly true.
It's no different in our household.
No. So that's kind of the kit range, really. So there's not, other than a true offset, which I don't know. One day maybe. I thought about it a couple of times. I really have, but then sort of my head kicks in and says, how often are you going to use this? I'd love to be in a position where I could do it, but I wouldn't do it justice. I don't think, not from an investment in time, and I've got a massive respect for people that use those sort of religiously and cook amazing barbecue. People like Dave from Wilson's Barbecue. That guy's just an absolute genius. And certainly here, and I've been to States, eating into really good barbecue joints where they use massive, great big offsets. It's amazing. But I think you can produce a really good product if using different equipment. Is it as good? That's down to your own personal opinion, and it's debatable. But you can produce a really good product if you sort of learn your craft on different units. And I think you buy good produce to begin with. Don't buy crap meat or whatever it may be. And you learn whatever piece of kit you're using, you learn that, and you get to know that and how that reacts to whether it be environmental changes or heat changes or whatever it may be. You can still produce some really, really good food.
On that point, then, what are your favorite things to cook, and give us a tip for each one? Because again, looking on the Instagram, you're putting together not good food, great looking food. So yeah.
Well,
tips.
yeah. I am a real foodie, so it's like it's that question, isn't it? What would be your last meal? I'd really struggle with that. I'd probably die before I made a decision. It's so tough. So okay, I'll give you a list. Can I give you a small list?
Yeah, please do.
I'm not going to be on too long. So steak is right up there for me. Whether it be a ribeye or a picanha, I really love as well. So my tips for cooking a good steak, there's numerous. First of all, buy really good quality meat. I would rather eat less steak and buy good quality steak and eat it more frequently and buy rubbish. No disrespect, but a lot of the steaks that you just pick up off the shelf in supermarkets are not great, unless you find something that you can make work. But I'd rather eat it less often, so to buy a better product. And then I think, let's just take a ribeye. I would always take it out, get it up to room temperature. Dry brining is always a good idea with steak as well. Do that overnight. That works really well. But I think, especially with a thick steak, thick ribeye, for me, a reverse sear is almost impossible to mess up. But I have done it. But it's almost impossible to mess up.
If you've been looking or thinking about an outdoor kitchen, then look no further than AOS Outdoor Kitchens.
They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Their extensive showroom is based just outside Bournemouth on the Dorset-Hampshire border, and as well as numerous in-store displays, also features a live outdoor kitchen where they cook every week on Kamado grills, pizza ovens, and all filmed and shown on YouTube.
They offer a wealth of knowledge on how to transform your patio into the most incredible outdoor dining area with styles and options to suit every budget, and you can guarantee they will be able to create something perfectly suited to you and your home.
They stock and supply everything that you're going to need for outdoor cooking, including barbecues, Kamado ovens, pizza ovens, outdoor fridges, and every accessory that you would need to become the ultimate outdoor chef.
So if you want to make yourself the envy of your friends and neighbours, get in touch with them today to arrange a consultation and take the first step in transforming your back garden into the most incredible entertainment space.
Visit aoskitchens.co.uk.
And with a picanha, tried it a couple of ways. My favourite way of a picanha is on skewers, so cut into steaks and then put on skewers, like you would see in a South American sort of asado, you know, where it's just pure salt and that's just spinning over fire, and then you just take that off with a big blade of a knife and just literally really thin slices. For me, that's the best way to cook picanha. I've had some bad picanha. Actually, my old next door neighbour was Brazilian, funnily enough, and we got invited around there once. She said, "I'm cooking picanha," and it was awful. She completely cooked it, overcooked it, and she cut it with the grain instead of against the grain. It was just chewy. I mean, it's like boot leather. It was disgusting, which I found hilarious considering she was Brazilian. So yeah, so that would be my tips for that, for steak. Lamb, I'm a big lamb fan. Shoulder of lamb, personally, I will always do two ways. Pulled, so just really low and slow. So it's literally, shoulder of lamb's very, very fatty. So low and slow for a long time. So it literally just melts, melts in your mouth. Or classico, I really like as well. So on a bed of potatoes and then sort of wrap that in paper, maybe put it in a Dutch oven. And again, all that lamb fat just goes into the potatoes. That's some of the best potatoes you'll ever have in your life, in my opinion. And I love a good burger. Mm-hmm. I think a really good burger is difficult to beat.
Are you talking smash burger or are you talking a normal burger?
I'm quite a big burger fan. If I posted as many burgers on my page as I'd like to, I'd literally have to just change it to like Hampshire burger or whatever. I love burgers, but I do love smash burgers. But then sometimes, I'll prefer to just sort of make the patty and just put it directly, really over charcoal, just to get that massive sear. So you've got that charcoal sort of Maillard effect, that's that extra level of flavour, which I don't think you get with smash burgers. Mm-hmm. I think smash burgers bring something completely different in terms of like that crispy sort of gnarly edge. But yeah, I'm quite happy to eat as many as I can of both, just for pure trial and error purposes. So yeah, I think. Go on, sorry.
I was just about to say, so if we'll come on to this, I suppose, in a bit, because you do a lot of cooking at Sizzlefest, especially for the Wings Championship. But so if they did a Burger Championship instead this year, would you be? We
spoke about competing? Do you know what we spoke about this? Sort of going back to the original sort of stuff on Instagram. Me and Corky done some sort of charity cook stuff, and whilst I sat in the background, I was kind of one of the sort of founding people of the Sizzle show and stuff like that. I just never, I was not a front of house kind of guy. I'm just quite happy to sit in the background and just cook and stuff. But we did speak about it for Sizzlefest, because it was like, okay, what else can we do? Can we do like a burger eating challenge, or where people build their own burgers and things? And I think it's a really good idea. The trouble is, in reality, it's quite hard to pull that off, because how many patties can you really cook unless you sort of, roll up with some sort of, kebab van off the side of the A13 or something, right, with a massive flat plate. So I don't know. There may be something there. I do think that there's an idea there, but I would definitely be up for it. And I can take down quite a few burgers. So I'd probably rather do the eating than the cooking, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd quite like to give that a go. I can't remember who it was you had on it. It might have been Elkie or something like that, and they were talking about man versus food and things. And I remember watching that religiously, you know, when it sort of first came out. You know, and there's a fat boy in me trying to get out every single day.
And out of interest, that show, I used to hate it when they did the hot challenges, because to me that's not what that program's about. No, I don't want to see him eating hot stuff. I do not care. You know, when he's crying and he's got like all the gloves on, I was like, I want to see him eat like 8 pounds of food.
Mounds and mounds of food. So from a burger point of view, I'd like to give it a go myself. So I won't cook, but I won't cook it if this challenge does ever come off. I won't cook, but I'll definitely enter. Definitely.
Sounds good. So one of the things that we like to talk about on the podcast is barbecue fails.
Yeah.
So some of the things that haven't gone so well for you. Hopefully we've got some funny stories for us. So do you want to talk about your barbecue fails?
Yeah, I could talk about, you know, I've got hundreds in all honesty. I've been barbecuing for long enough. I think one of my most recent ones was it wasn't last summer, summer before. So we had loads of people around, like a lot. And I made the stupid mistake of saying, yeah, I'll do pretty much as much food as anyone wants. So I was cooking like relentlessly from the night before. And I had a big brisket to do, which I think the trouble is when you do a brisket and you're not going to put it in a hold for a long time, or certainly from home, is, for me anyway, all of the focus was on the brisket. It was like, don't mess this brisket up, especially when you've got people coming around and you've bigged it up and you go, yeah, I've got this brisket, da 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 da. They're going to think, this needs to be, you know, the absolute bomb. So the brisket was done. I took that off in the morning, sort of let it cool slightly, went in the wrap, went in the cooler. I was like, whew. So then I just, you know, I thought, I've got this licked. I'll have a couple of beers. Then it dawned on me that, you know, people were coming quite soon, and I hadn't done a lot of other stuff at all, and I'd promised all this stuff. So I was rushing around, and cut a long story short, I took my eye off the ball with the pork belly burnt ends. And bearing in mind they were going in a pellet grill, it's pretty difficult to mess up, isn't it? Let's be honest. And I'd smoked them. That was fine. Come off. They'd gone in a foil pan with the usual, you know, butter, brown sugar, honey, bit of sauce, whatever. But I've completely forgot the step in my sort of brain fart of everything else and worrying about the brisket and then having a few beers. I completely forgot the foil step, i.e., sort of steaming these in some sort of liquid, you know. So I just thought they were done. I didn't even, I was doing so much, you know, there must have been 50 people there. I was doing so much. I didn't even test them. I mean, that's the worst thing you can possibly do, isn't it? Not even try your own food before you serve it, Christ. So I put them on the plate. I gave them to my daughter and said, right, can you take these round to people? And I just looked up and she came back and I said, oh, you didn't get rid of that many, did you? She was like, I don't think I like them, Dad. It's like, really? So I've looked up and you can just see sort of people just chewing on these bristly sort of, you know, giant, what looked like a giant Haribo. It must have been like there's people getting napkins, just sort of trying to tuck them and spit them into there. And I said, oh, let me taste one. And yeah, it was bloody awful. It was awful. The meat was sort of dry and it was just, and I'd say I just completely messed that up. I served raw chicken once to my parents. Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, it wasn't undercooked. It was pretty raw. That was a long time ago, thank God. That was part of the learning process. And then I think I did what everyone has done. And that was the sort of first day of trying to cook a brisket. I went to the supermarket and bought a brisket flat. and expected it to taste anything remotely like a brisket should taste. In reality, it and you can't make that good. Not for it to be sliced and enjoyed like brisket. I now know should be enjoyed. It's it makes a good chili, but other than that, it's dry and pretty crap. And I think I must have gone through half a dozen brisket flats on my Weber Smoky Mountain back in the day, trying to perfect this. And they got to what I thought was as good as you're going to get, but they were pretty shocking. I kept serving them to people time after time. Yeah, slightly better than the last one, Paul, but it's not sure what you're trying to achieve with this. But yeah,
where did you get your brisket from now?
So now, quite passionate to a degree that I'll try and buy as much British meat as I can. So my only exception there is brisket, I'm afraid. And that's because I've tried so much UK brisket, and I've just found that grain fed from either the US or Australia, just because of the fat content, the higher fat content, the end product is so much tastier and so much more like, I believe brisket should be. I know there's a couple of exceptions that people are using a couple of UK briskets and getting good results. Not tried them yet. I have got 2 briskets in the freezer. I've got a Jack's Creek from Australia in the freezer, which I got from JL Butchers, I believe. And then I've got a very special brisket in the freezer, which was from Tom Hickson. And it's a Japanese A5 class Wagyu brisket. Yeah, which
I'd be scared something would happen to my freezer.
I am petrified. No, I'm petrified of cooking it. No, it was. I didn't get it for this. I did some work for someone, and they paid me in a brisket, but it was on the website.
What a brisket it was to get paid with!
It was on the website for $1,000, and so I'm sort of thinking, yeah, I'm not going to touch it until the summer because I want nice weather,
consistency.
Yeah, I'm going to be sat there just looking at that thing cook. So yeah, that's my only exception. Everything else, whether it be, I use direct meats a lot. Direct meats, I use, they sell really, really good beef. The Dingley Dell range of pork, I think, is phenomenal. Quite hard to beat from my experience. Fantastic service. I use Village Butchers sometimes, as I say, JL Butchers, John Davidson's I've used. So I try and get as much UK produce as I can. I think that's important. I'm not going to sit here and say everything I buy is British, because I also use Amazon. So let's be brutally honest.
We all do. Yeah, everyone pretends they don't, but we all do.
So yeah, I'd be lying if I said that I was supporting the UK farmers every time. But I try my best.
What you've mentioned, obviously, a couple of things you're going to be doing, like getting to grips more with the braai. What else have you got planned for 2023?
So I've always got a cook list. I don't know about you guys, but I just sit there all the time and I get random ideas that just my wife will be talking about something important and my mind will go wandering something. I think, actually, I'll write that down. So, I've got a cook list, which I really, really want to, I think because of last year where I wasn't as active as I wanted to be, this year, I really want to be on it. But in terms of sort of dates and events, this Sunday, I'm really excited actually. This Sunday, I'm going to Elke's cooking school because the curry guy's there, Dan Toombs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember seeing Dan Toombs 2017 maybe. I think he just released his first book, and I love a curry as well. And it's by hands up, I can't cook a good curry. It's okay, but you go to a really good curry house and then you taste their curry and go, okay, this is the real deal. what I've done at home it's all right. It's better than a ready meal or whatever it may be. But so my aim is to just try and glean as much as I can on Sunday from Dan. So I'm really looking forward to that. In a couple of weeks, slight plug. So on March the 18th, I will be at SoCal for Marcus Baldwin's book launch. So awesome. Marcus will be there launching his new book. And him and Charles have kindly sent me a digital copy that I've had a sneak peek of. So I'm going to be going down there on the 18th in the barn at SoCal, and I'll be cooking half a dozen recipes from Marcus's new book.
Nice.
So no pressure, but I'll mess those up. So now Marcus is fantastic. He's one of the sort of guys that I sort of looked up to quite early on in the sort of social media side of barbecue. Mm-hmm. Really, really helpful guy. So I'm quite honoured to be going down and doing that with him or for him, if you like, while he tries to flog as many books as he possibly can.
I don't think he's going to have any trouble with that.
No, I don't think he will. And then I'll be back there middle of April at SoCal. So same time last year, pretty much, I did a barbecue basics course. So part of their sort of masterclass range, if you want to call it that. But mine's very much a barbecue basics. It's supported by Broil King as well, so we'll have all the Broil King units out, and we just take it back to just kind of the simple stuff, but it's the stuff that we all have to go through, the learning process, cooking with the lid down, using temperature and not cooking to time, and all of that kind of stuff that no one really tells you unless you sort of go and find that information or you go to classes like this. And I really enjoy it. It's really chilled. And yeah, I just try and get people as involved as possible rather than just listening to me sort of blabber on, or me. It's just, I'll do bits and it's like, okay, we're going to bring together a breakfast, a lunch and an evening meal, if you like, all within sort of 5 hours. And as a sort of collaboration, really. So everyone feels as though they're contributing to the different elements, and everyone gets the cook sheets and an apron and stuff. And it's just a good giggle. We did it last year. It was really successful. Charles was pleased, which is obviously which is good, and the feedback from everyone that attended was good. So much so that I noticed from the bookings, actually, I got a couple of people coming back again, sort of repeat bookers. So either I missed something or they they enjoyed it. So yeah, and then we'll no doubt be doing some demos for Broil King across the summer as well. But other than that, to be honest, I really, really just want to max out on social time this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of come out of the lockdown piece, and then, as I sort of alluded to, we went through a nightmare of a house move last year. And so this year, I just sort of said, whenever we get the opportunity, let's just be doing something. And for me, it normally centers around barbecue, whether it's here or whether I'm going to a friend's or whether we're going down to the beach. There's always food and drinks and music, and just try and enjoy life, really.
Mm-hmm. So I think, this is probably a good time then. You're talking about sort of maximizing social time, and so should we give you a challenge to cook something so that you can do that at home or with some friends?
Come on then.
Okay, barbecue bingo.
Barbecue bingo.
Yeah, barbecue bingo. Barbecue bingo is brought to you by Lumberjack Food Company. Your ticket to Flavortown. Right, I'm just going to share the screen, and okay. So most of this list now has been left by some previous guests.
Can I tell you what I don't want?
Yeah.
Go on.
Can you fix this, or shall I keep my mouth shut?
No, what do you want?
Can't. It's not one of those dodgy giveaways, is it?
No.
I really don't want beef tongue.
Wow. Okay.
I've never cooked it.
No, and I won't unless I obviously get it here. It is my worst nightmare. It's just everything else on there I'd be more than happy with.
Yeah. Okay.
But not tongue.
I'm excited now.
Who's left beef tongue there? I want names.
So that was the guy.
Smoked Face Gorilla talked about beef tongue for a while, but I'm not sure if it was him. No.
So this is actually the episode recorded just before yours.
Paul, so we can't give it away yet.
Well, no, we can. We can.
We can. Absolutely can. Dan wasn't present, so he didn't know. But it was the guys from Smoky Oak Barbecue, the offset smoker guys.
I don't know them that well, but I can still abuse them for leaving that there.
There's also my signature dish. Now, the reason that we asked you what your favourite thing to cook was earlier is that for my signature dish. So if it lands on that, what are you known for? What would you cook? I'm assuming maybe burgers, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe a steak. I think I'd probably go with a steak because I've got some nice steaks in the freezer. So let's go with. Is that a bit boring? Should I pick something better than that? I'll tell you what we do. Right, if I get my signature dish, I will cook what has to be a decent curry, following my tutelage on Sunday with Elkie and the curry guy. How's that?
That sounds good to me.
If you get beef tongue, I want to see a beef tongue burger.
Oh, beef tongue burger.
Just like hanging out of the
like Mr. Potato Head kind of scenario, right? Just coming out of the bun. God, that sounds bloody awful.
Oh, come on, you've talked so much about this. Please.
Now you just wanted beef tongue now, aren't you?
Just remember, if we'd like you to leave an ingredient, so have a little think while I give this a spin.
Can I put beef tongue back?
You could do. Right, let's give it a go.
Don't.
Beef tongue, beef tongue, beef tongue, beef tongue, beef tongue, beef. Oh, it's not going to be beef tongue, is it?
Haggis. Okay.
Oh, there we are. Haggis, though.
I'm quite happy with that, and I've already got an idea for that. I do like haggis. Haggis done well, I think, is delicious. I do really like it. Yeah, I've got an idea for that already. So
fantastic.
What are you thinking?
Lucky enough, 7 or 8 years ago, I was really fortunate enough to be taken to Cameron House. What's the golf course in just outside of Glasgow? God, I'm lucky enough, and I can't remember the name of it. But it's phenomenal. It is like the course there, and the restaurant was amazing. But they did haggis that had been cold smoked, and then it was because it's Scotland, it was deep fried, but in a really lovely sort of panko breadcrumb, and then there was homemade chili jams, and it was just it was amazing. So I'm thinking something along those lines. But yeah, we'll see. I may change my mind, but I'm kind of liking that idea.
Great. And what ingredient are you going to leave for the next guest?
See, I don't want to be a beef tongue person. I think that's harsh. I'm gonna leave monkfish.
Oh,
because I think monkfish is a really, really amazing fish, and people don't cook it enough, including myself.
It's on the list.
Fantastic.
Great. So, is there anything that we haven't spoken about yet on this podcast, or any other podcast for that matter, that you wanted to kind of bring up?
No, I you know what I like listening to you guys and the guests that you have on. I think it's good to get a real diverse mix of guests, you know, and I think that's really important. You know, and certainly with some of the guys that have sort of been around for many a moon and are now, you know, made it their career, you know, Elkie and Adam Purnell and things like that. I think it's amazing. I'd love to do it, I think, but at the moment I need to stick to the day job. But yeah,
who knows?
Who knows, indeed. But no, I think you guys are doing a great job. And yeah, the stuff with the guys to queue together, I think I would like to see how else the community can take that message forward. And really start to get some numbers behind it, some eyeballs behind it, you know, because I think anyone that's active within the community knows about it, or probably has heard about it, or is involved. But how do we take it to another level? Because I think that's when things start to change. Because we all know the numbers and statistics around, you know, mental health and suicide, which is shocking. So yeah, I don't want to end on a bum note, but yeah, how do we take that to another level? And I think through some of the work you're doing is definitely helping, right? Because people may discover it through the podcast, you know, and anything that raises awareness is great. But other than that, what else could you be doing? I don't know. Perhaps you can take the podcast out on the road. Is there anything you can do there where you can do some live stuff at
We've
events?
talked about it. We've talked about it a few times behind the scenes, and I think at some point that will happen. It's on my list of things we want to do. Owen and I are very different in the way that we attack and take part in this podcast and where our brains are. Owen's all about wanting to get behind more of the cooking. I know that in his heart of hearts, he wants us to be out cooking everywhere. Whereas for me, I'd love to be at these shows, but rather than cooking, I'd love to be interviewing people on stage and doing some of the filler stuff in between. So maybe there's a place for that somewhere in the future, or maybe both.
Why can't you do both?
That's why it's two of us, right?
Yeah, why can't you do both, right? So you're doing, one of you's doing the commentary and the talking and the questions, whilst you know, the other one and the guest is doing the cooking. So perhaps the guest could say, okay, I'm gonna cook this. And they're going to walk you through that method, and you can cook it with them. Whilst the other one,
are we going to be a shit hairy bikers?
Less hairy, and bikery.
Yeah, push bikes.
Yeah,
yeah, you could be. Yeah, little rebrand coming on. The shit hairy bikers. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's things you can do. Why not? And speak to the guys at Sizzlefest as well, because I know that they're, you know, they want to shake things up again, as they always do. So
there's one problem with that. Anyone who knows us and has seen us there in person knows that is our Christmas do for the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. That's effectively our Christmas do. We love being there. And we love just letting loose, enjoying ourselves, having drinks, and enjoying barbecue. And there was a chance this year that Owen wouldn't be able to go to Sizzlefest. If that had happened, then maybe that would have not been the case for me in regards to the, you know, doing something there. But now we've managed to wangle our wives to not only let us go, but say they're coming with us.
Oh,
you know,
is that a good thing? Yeah, we have to say yes, don't we? It's a fantastic thing.
It was the only way it was going to happen.
Oh, okay.
This year,
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't know what the plans are for me this year. Part of me really wants to just go as a ticket holder and just
we love it.
Go
we
and enjoy it
because
the first year was mental. I don't remember much of it at all. Largely due to the fact that I was quite sort of inebriated. But
weren't we all?
Yeah, but then last year we really tried to scale back. And, you know, I do a lot with Russ, as I've mentioned, and we're really good friends. But we really tried to scale back on the stuff that we were doing. But it just kind of organically grows while you're there, and you end up doing stuff. And by the time you're like, okay, we can chill, especially after the hot wing challenge, because that was on late, wasn't it? That was on really late. And that was a rush behind the scenes. That was panic stations, let me tell you, because we were told, oh, you know, we're running 45 minutes behind, guys. Chill. So it was okay. And then all of a sudden, oh, no, we're not now. We need it like yesterday. But anyway, cut a long story short, by the time we'd done that, and then we said, oh, right, okay. We can see out of our eyes again because they're not, you know, sort of bleeding from the chili sauce. And we had a beer. It's like 9-10 o'clock, and the night's pretty much over. So I think it would be really nice to go along this year and just go to
taking the atmosphere.
Exactly. You know, and I've got friends locally that have started going and things, and they say it was amazing. And they were telling me stuff that happened that I've got absolutely no idea was even going on. So I think I'd really like to experience that. I think it just comes back to the social thing for me this year. There's events and demos and stuff that I'm really looking forward to and I'm really excited to do. But I really want to balance it with the social stuff.
Now, my wife's got no idea what she's walking into, because I think Laura on Owen's side is a bit more involved in what you do, and Owen's got a lot more barbecues and things than me, so she probably has a bit more of an understanding. Whereas I think Steph doesn't really get this, or doesn't like she's not really on Instagram, weirdly, or she is, but she's just looking at basically a version of TikTok, but she's not looking into what I'm doing at all. And I think she's going to be confused when walking around and talking to everyone. I mean, she knows what we're like when we get together with drinks anyway, so that side of it she'll understand.
I think it will be a bit of an eye-opener.
She's got no idea what she's about to walk into. You know, how do you explain like cooking with the Duke to someone who hasn't seen anything?
I think the best thing you to do is just maybe cut the gin and tonics before she goes in, and then just go off you go. Just pick up the pieces, really. But this I don't think you can explain it. I can't see my other half coming, if I'm honest. She sort of says that she would, but she'd be bored after about an hour. She'd like, what are you doing? So yeah, I just no, I don't think it's for her. But I think good luck to you guys, and I'll certainly shout you around the drinks with your other half when I see you. But it'd be good. I'd be good. We'd be lucky. Like, you know, the first 2 years have been fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to try and get out to a couple of more events. I think I might miss Metopia this year. I think I've done that years on the trot, and I'm a little bit Metopia'd out, if it's fair to say. But I've never been to was it Smoke and Fire? Is it Colchester or Malden? I've never been there.
Malden this year.
I'd quite like to give that a go, I think, in place of Metopia. Just mix it up a little bit.
The great thing about all of these is they're all so different.
Yeah.
They really are different atmosphere. Like Smoke and Fire is much more of like a family day out.
Okay.
Is how I describe it. And you haven't got like the barbecue meatheads there. Or if you do, to a much like lesser extent, if that makes sense.
Am I a barbecue meathead? Who's a
we
barbecue
all are.
meathead?
We all are.
Okay,
we all
so,
are. Yeah.
Wow, that's a massive sweeping brush, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyone that barbecues is a meathead. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll cut this bit out.
Yeah. No, we won't.
Okay. Well, I could take the family there, maybe, if it's more of a family day out.
We took our kids to Smoke and Fire.
Okay.
Because they had like Zorbin and inflatables, bouncy castle, all
wicked.
that kind of stuff.
Okay,
So
that sounds good. Yeah. And I'm from Essex originally, so I could tie it in with some family visits and stuff. So
whereabouts?
I think I'll do that. I was born and raised, well, not born, but I grew up in a lovely place in Thurrock called Stamford Hope, or Stamford No Hope, as it's often referred to. And as soon as I can, I got out of there. But yeah, so that's where I grew up. So yeah, and that was not far from the lovely places of Basildon and all these wonderful places in Essex.
I'm in Essex.
Where are you?
Manningtree.
Oh, you're posh Essex. You're posh Essex.
Yeah, I was in Colchester, but yeah.
I know Manningtree. Yeah. Yes, posh Essex. You didn't rough it in the slums.
Well, I'm a West Country boy at heart, but there we are.
Oh, okay, nice.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's probably it now, isn't it?
Just one more time, plug how people can find you.
Okay. So yeah, for anyone that's interested and wants to take a look at what I'm doing, what I'm up to, you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook at Hampshire_BBQ.
Well underscored. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. It's been great, and we look forward to seeing you at very least at Sizzlefest, where you will not be working this year.
I hope not. Yeah, I think I don't know if they're going to rest the hot wings thing maybe this year. I don't know, but
I don't know. After last year, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a big headline thing, isn't it? It's it draws the crowd in. That's the thing. It's it was carnage. But if I do it again, I will do it differently. Definitely will do it differently. I think we've both Russ and I, we've learned a lot in doing that for 2 years. And this year, the brief to us was make it hotter, a lot hotter, which we did. But in the process of doing that, it was difficult, and we fucked a lot of people off, if I can say that as well, because we were rushing so much to cook these wings. Opposite us, there were, I won't say who because it's not fair, but opposite us there were two stands. One was giving a talk on whatever it was, and then another stand was doing something else. And this toxic chili fog that was coming from our gazebo. I mean, it was unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever seen Jeremy Clarkson, The Farm. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't. No.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't like him, but anyway, there's an episode on there where he starts to make his own chili sauce in this professional kitchen, and there's him and two cooks, and they can't even breathe. They're just coughing. Their eyes are, just floods of tears. And this was us. And there's two of my friends were just literally trying to fan the fumes away. And Russ and I, Russ was half cut by this point. I was struggling to hold on. And we was literally sort of just sort of dousing sort of Carolina Reaper and God knows what over these wings. So it was organised chaos. But yeah, we will definitely do it differently if we do it this year. But I'm not, as I say, I'm not privy to the plans. I've sort of stepped back from a lot of that stuff. So we shall see what happens. But regardless, we shall see you there. Pleasure. Thank you both.
No worries. Speaking to you.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
That's it for another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. It was fantastic to speak to Paul, Hampshire BBQ. I think he's got a great story. Clearly has a passion for food and fire and barbecue. And I'm excited to see what he does next in his journey. As ever, we want to hear from you. Tell us what you want us to talk about on the podcast. Get in touch through our usual channels on social media at Meet and Greet Barbecue Podcast, the website meetandgreetbarbecuepodcast.com. And until next time, keep on grilling. Today's episode is brought to you by AOS Kitchens, the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.